I have a question about kids and strong negative emotions and phobias. With COVID, there's lots of stuff came out. Like I have 8 years old girl, and I usually deal with a lot of kids. I'm like kids groups, and sometimes I see it coming from all the direction right now. Like all the kids developing different anxieties, and I would like to be helpful. My own daughter has anxiety of sleeping alone, afraid of the dark, going to the bathroom, stuff like this. And girls usually have really strong feelings, negative feelings. And when she gets together with her girlfriends, and sometimes they all have them, so it's hard to handle it. So I would like to be more useful. Can you give me tips about this?
Well, they're young, therefore they don't know a whole lot. They don't have a lot of experience. And they know that they're young. They know they don't have a lot of experience. And that frightens them because there's so much in this big world that they don't understand. There's so much going on. They don't understand, even why their parents do the things they do. They just don't understand a lot of it. So that makes them feel vulnerable. And when they feel vulnerable, their mind starts to play on those fears, the fear of the unknown, the fear of being out of control. And yes, that is pretty natural to girl children, more so than the boy children. I had 2 girls and a boy, all of the same age. Actually, I've had 2 boys and 2 girls, but the last 3 were all around the same age. I had them 3 years in a row. And the boy was in the middle between the 2 girls. And both of those girls, particularly if it was dark and there was something downstairs, where nobody was that they had to get, and if it was night, they'd get their brother to go. They wouldn't go, but they could send their brother. Their brother would go. He didn't mind, but they weren't going to go down there in that dark place. So yes, I understand just what you mean. You can reassure them, oh, there's nothing down there, but that doesn't really help. That doesn't help at all because they still have this fear of the unknown. Now, if you go with them and you say, okay, hold my hand, we're both going to go down there together. All right, now they can do that because they know you're big and you can, do magic. You can do all kinds of things. So they trust that you'll be able to take care of them. So they can do that. And maybe you could walk them down there 10 or 20 times, holding their hands to where they would kind of realize that maybe the world is scary, but not in my house. It's not really so scary. They'd still be frightened somebody else's house or some other place, but you can maybe teach them that your downstairs is not that scary. But so other than that, other than going with them and holding their hand or holding them, I don't think there's much you can do about it other than try to give them some reassurances that they're going to be just fine, that you're here, you'll take care of them, everything will be okay. Try not to tell them scary stories and let them see and hear scary things because that will just make it worse. And don't try to force them to do things that they don't feel comfortable with. This idea of there's nothing down there, go on down there this minute, forcing them, that is not good either. They're truly frightened, and to force them is not likely to turn out very well. It'll probably make them worse rather than better. So be gentle. Just figure that is the way they are. They're young, they're small, they're not particularly strong, they're not brave. They're just little people in a big, scary world, and they just need some comfort and reassurance. And if you go with them, then that will help. And if you go with them many times, then they will eventually not be so frightened anymore. They'll have more I don't know what belief, it's this belief in this at this point that wherever it is, downstairs or upstairs or in the attic or wherever it is that is the problem, they'll just have more confidence that there's nothing wrong. And yes, there'll be monsters under their bed, monsters that hide in the closet, all sorts of things like that will be part of their life. And you just have to be very confident and reassuring and give them hugs and smiles. Don't make fun of them. Don't force them. If they would like to sleep with a light on in the room, let the light be on in the room. It's a phase they're going through. They won't always be that way. They'll grow up and understand the world more. But right now, they're small and they're vulnerable and they know it. And they really don't know what there is out in the world to be afraid of. And until they know for sure, they're going to be afraid. It's kind of just goes with them, particularly little girls. It's just going to be that way. So be gentle, be kind.
What about negative emotion? Like all kinds of sorts of negative emotion when they interact, like jealousy, for example, or some other negative emotion. I can't think of it right now, but they have this way of expressing it right away that you're kind of looking for fifth corner in the house, but how to help them to process them and understand them.
Well, I would say have a little discussion with them about how they feel and how they act and how their actions affect other people. So they see all three of those, that they're aware of their feelings. How they feel is upset, angry, right? Okay, now, all right, that's how they feel, and they should be aware of that. But they should then know, what does that lead to? How do they act? How do they act that out and express that? And lastly, how does that affect other people? What does that do to other people? And how do they see it? And how do they see it when other people are angry at them or upset with them? And if you can get them to ponder those, those possibilities, what is it to be like on the other side? Is there anybody that's ever jealous or angry of you? And what does that feel like to you? And then they will begin to realize that what the person that they're angry at is feeling and how they see it. That will help tone them down a lot. So I would say, try to get them to see it from the opposite perspective as to who they are, what they do, how they act, what they sound like. He can even take some home movies of them being upset and angry, whatever, play it back to them. And here's what you actually sound like when you're doing this, And then the last thing to do would be have a little discussion to them about growing up and about maturity, and explain to them that maturity is measured in terms of one's self-centeredness. That growing up and becoming an adult, that growing up and becoming mature, and those two things aren't necessarily identical. Becoming an adult and becoming mature don't necessarily have to happen together. There's a lot of immature adults, but growing up is going to require them to become less self-centered. And if they stay self-centered, then they're just going to stay a child, no matter how old they are. They'll always be a child, and they'll probably always be treated like a child by everybody around them. So if they want to grow up, and most young children just want fiercely to be older than they are, all those little girls all want to be at least 16, even when they're 5, they want to be 16. So if you tell them, oh, you want to grow up, then you have to become less self-centered. It has to be less about you. You need to think about other people and how other people are going to take what you are dishing out, what you're doing, and how that works out. Is it positive or negative? And I think over time, you're not going to teach them all this in one night, but over months or years, you should get them to see that when they get angry, basically they make things worse for themselves. The whole situation deteriorates because of that. And that being not so self-centered means that you think about other people and how they'll feel, not just about how you feel. And you'll consider other people's viewpoints of how they see things from their perspective. It's a nice thing to get them to do. Well, what do you think Susie feels? You know? And if it's well, Susie's just being self-centered. And you can say, well, okay, that's true, but you being self-centered in response, is that a good response? You say, so get some of those big picture things. Now, you can't do too much. The girls are 8 years old. They're only going to comprehend so much. You have to keep it at their level. You can't be too intellectual about it, but make it fun and don't make it long. If your talk lasts more than 10 minutes, it's a lecture, and lectures don't work. So keep it short. Let these be little 5-minute interludes, little things you do or bring up, and then let it go. Because at 8 years old, 5 minutes is about all the attention span you're going to get before you become overwhelming. So quick, short, nice, cheerful, always ends on a smile and a kiss and a hug. And so you're not telling them that they're wrong. You're not telling them that the way they're acting is wrong, because you don't want to do that. That gives them a negative feeling about themselves. You just want to give them some other way to see things, a little bigger picture, how life is. Then a hug and a kiss and I love you, and then tuck them in bed or whatever you do, and they'll learn from it. They'll pretend that they didn't hear a word of it, but they'll get it. And you'll see the difference. A year later, you'll see the difference.
Thank you so much. It's a good start. Somehow I can use some of it for my husband. Thank you, Tom.